All right, everybody, we are so incredibly excited. I was just talking to Ray right before we got started and got teary-eyed actually because of the
Mm.
powerful human that he is and the light that he brings to the world of truth and love and just being a light to the world. And so for him to be here, showing up as Mr. Ray Higdon, who loves Jesus and life and just loves being a servant to the world, we're just so grateful because he is a busy man that he is coming here to bless each and every one of you and to take the time and to give his tips and tricks that he's learned over decades and decades of time of growth. And that growth, sometimes you see people as Ray Higdon, right? But the Ray Higdon has had a journey of life and it has not started. It didn't start as the woo woo, right? It starts as here we are, and then we grow through those experiences. And so I would just like to say we have known Ray, I'm not even sure how many years now, but every single time that we come in contact with him, it's all love, it's all service. I think back to this morning when COVID was going on, and a lot of people had a lot of fears in regards to health, but also in regards to business. And Ray just said, reached out to many people within the network marketing community and beyond and said, how can I serve? I want to come and I want to show up for your team. And that I just wanted to say that because that again speaks to who he is. And so we just thank you so much for that, Ray. Like I said, he's an incredible father and husband and beyond, and has built a huge business for his life. And so Ray, I could talk forever about my feelings about you and edify you because I love edifying people. But if you could just, you're going to do it the best justice for
Sure.
everybody. Do you mind sharing a little bit of your story to give the hope of what people can have in their own personal life?
Yeah, thank you. That's so kind. Yeah, you took me back when COVID, when the quarantine specifically
Yeah.
happened. I did 75 free Zooms
Yes.
in
Free.
10 days. And so like there were some, it was in 9 languages. It was, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And so yeah, okay. So first, I think something that's important is before I was ever a coach or a trainer, I had built a network marketing business. I was the number one income earner in a company before I ever coached anybody. And I think that's, it's important for people to understand that I know what it's like to be in the field. And, I'm not, just studied some stuff or whatever. But I know what it's like to be in the field. And I know what it's like to start at a disadvantage. When I got serious about network marketing, it was right after I had lost everything in real estate in 2008, 2009. And so I had been through a divorce. I was in foreclosure. I was $1 million in debt and just over leveraging different real estate projects. And, sometimes people come up to me and say, Ray, man, it's really tough. I'm 30,000 in debt. I'm like, oh, good for you. Such restraint. Way to go. But yeah, I mean, literally, someone that was homeless was worth $1 million more than me. And so, meager beginnings. And a lot of times, people wonder, okay, you're saying you were divorced, foreclosure, depressed, $1 million in debt, and then not that long thereafter, you were the number one earner of this company. Like, okay, how did that work? What was and they asked for what was the switch, right? And so I think that people think it's some kind of miraculous strategy I learned or, script or, viral video maybe or magazine cover or something. And it actually had everything to do with forgiveness.
Mhm.
And, you know, um, I hadn't, I grew up in a very abusive home. And in 2009, I hadn't talked to my dad in 13 years, and I had every reason not to. And so, long story short here, I reached out to him and I was at the lowest of the low. But he had never met my sons, who were 9 and 10 years old at the time. And I reached out to him and said, hey, I'd like for you to meet, your grandsons. And so I go up to Indiana and he meets him for the first time. And, we went from absolutely nothing to something, right? It never became perfect. It's still not perfect.
Right.
But we went from absolutely nothing to something. And I came home and it was like, letting go of that resentment, anger, bitterness, whatever. Within 1 week, I joined that company that I went on to become the number one income earner of. And so, something I've noticed with anyone I coach in kind of a deep level is your business problem is actually a personal problem. It's either might be forgiveness, right? Or it's some kind of conclusion that you made from observations as a kid. And that's just, I've never had that not be the case. It's always the case, 100%. Any pattern that you have in your life is, God trying to help you, and God loves you so much, he doesn't want you to remain the same. But because he loves you, the lesson is repeated until it's learned.
Mm.
And so like if my 4 year old, I have a 4 year old, son now, and if he's licking a steak knife, I'm going to say, hey, stop, don't do that. I'm not going to just say it once and then be in
Right.
the hospital the next day and say, well, I told him, like I'm going to repeat the lesson until he gets it and puts it down, because I want him, to grow. I don't want him to be in danger. And that's how God loves us. So we go from, you know, bad relationship to bad relationship to, financial struggle. The lesson is repeated until it's learned. And so what's interesting about, that story about my dad is I never planned on sharing that. But it was in 2011. I had a teammate, and this was when I was building a organization, and I had a teammate ask me to come up to Myrtle Beach. And so I go up to Myrtle Beach, and I do the opportunity meeting, and I'm about to do the training, and I just get this, I think for the first time ever, this big nudge, talk about your dad.
Oh.
And, back then, I mean, I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't, I don't want to say I didn't believe in God, but I didn't know him. And so I get this nudge, talk about your dad, and I never talked about him. And why did I listen? I don't know. But I shared that story. And the guy that booked me for that training comes walking up to me, tears just pouring down his face. And he
Oh.
said, can't believe you just shared that story. And he tells me he hasn't talked to his dad in 17 years. And the next day, he was flying out for his funeral.
Oh.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And so since then, I've shared that story, for, quite a few years. And I've had people, reconnect with their moms or brother, sister, son, daughter. And 3 times someone heard that story, reconnected with their father. They're all father stories. And then after that, their dad died. So
Mm.
they literally had a timing of, if they hear my story at this point, they do
Yeah.
that. If they hear it after, they don't.
Yeah.
And so I just encourage you, we all have these stories. We have these things that we've overcome. We have these things that we've been through that could really help other people. They really could. And so one of the mantras, which I really believe is biblical, is help the person you used to be.
Mm.
And so you've
So
been equipped and anointed to help anybody with the things that you've already overcome or survived or progressed through. And so I think a lot of times people are looking for, what is my brand, or what is my target market, or my avatar, or any of that stuff. And you can spend forever, trying to figure that out. But
right.
God's already kind of given you some clues, right? Because that thing that you've overcome, you are now equipped, you're anointed to go and help people that went through that same stuff or are going through that same thing. And so I keep building that company that I was the number one income earner of, merges into another company in 2013. I ran with that company for 3 years. And, at the same time, because I was, I think, like really the earliest guy teaching social media, teaching social media for network marketing in 2009, which nobody taught, like there was just nobody. And everyone told me it doesn't duplicate. And I remember being at my first conference, this was in 2009, and this guy says, hey, I hear you recruit a lot of people on Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. He goes, well, I prefer duplication. Walked away, right? I'm like, all right. Like he didn't know how I was wired, right? Like,
Right.
back then especially, Haterade was my Gatorade.
Yep.
Like a mission got set. I shall prove him wrong. And so it was like 7 months later when I was the number one income earner and announced on stage. And I was spiteful. I looked for him in the crowd and kind of pointed. Spiteful. I was small. I was small back then.
Okay.
But been doing this for a while, and social media is easier than it's ever been, for one major reason, one very particular reason, and that is you can now reach more people that don't know you for free than you've ever been able to. And that's the biggest reason that I think not everyone may understand. In the past, I mean, just a few years ago, if you want to reach people that didn't know you, you had to pay. You had to get ads. You had to do, you had to pay something, right? Because it just didn't naturally happen. But when TikTok came along with a completely different algorithm, and then, obviously you got YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, all of those things. Your stuff is constantly shown to people that aren't connected with you, don't know you, because the algorithm now says who might like this
Yep.
versus who knows them. And so it's a very different world we live in. It's actually a lot easier and a lot more, it's a lot cheaper actually. And so it's easier in every single way to increase your following on social media than it's ever been. It used to be, I mean, I was building before there were lives. You would upload a video and you just hope someone sees it, and sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't. So it's been an interesting and powerful journey. In 2017, I'm probably going way too long on this story
No,
here.
this is
I'll
amazing.
wrap I'll
So
wrap
good.
it up here.
No, keep
In
going.
2017, I so missed being in the trenches with the team that I launched our membership program called Rank Makers. And Rank Makers, to this day, I still do 5 videos a week. So Monday through Friday, I upload a small 4 to 6 minute video with a action step, with a short training, and we also track stats. And so since we started tracking stats in 2018, we've helped network marketers bring in over 300,000 new customers, 71,000 new reps, and achieve 14,000 rank advances. And like if you have someone in your team that's in rank makers and they rank advance, we actually send them a gift. And so we've probably sent out, I mean, we've sent out thousands and thousands and thousands of gifts to people that are rank advancing in different companies. And, it's fun, it's cool because we're trying, I never wanted to, just say, hey, I'm a really good trainer. I wanted to say, this is what we've helped do.
Yeah.
And even those numbers, that's with, you know, let absolutely less than 12% reporting. So we know there's bigger numbers, but that's what has actually been reported. So that's what we, talk about. Something completely changed my life 16 months ago. And so, I had hit a lot of the financial goals that I'd had. I generated over $30 million in online commissions and coaching commissions and network marketing commissions. And I thought that's what'll make me feel better about myself. And that's where now finally I'll be worthy. And, none of that stuff did that. And it's not its design. I was trying to fill a hole with something, that will never fill that. And I think a lot of people fall in this category of, I thought, if I hit $1 million a year, then I'll be good, I'll be worthy, and I'll be awesome, and I'll feel good about myself. And my first $1 million year is 2013, my first $1 million month 2014, my first $1 million day 2015. None of that stuff made me feel any better. I mean, it was cool, but I'm like, all right, next goal, right? I'm
Right.
just marching forward, and still felt a lot of, I just felt like something was missing. And so in 2020, right around the time of COVID, I went on a very different search, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what the heck's wrong with me? Why do I have trust issues? Why do I constantly feel like I'm not important, despite evidence around me? And why do I always feel like there's something missing? And so tried a lot of stuff. I tried different therapies. I tried hypnosis. I did 2 years of 1 to 3 hours a day of meditation, and all that stuff helped. It really did, but they weren't the answer. And it was 16 months ago that I discovered Christ, gave my life to Christ, both my wife and I on the same day, and that has completely changed everything. So for me, Christ was an exchange, not an addition. And so I just don't do trainings without bringing scripture in. I'm, in the word every single day. I didn't know if he was calling me to ministry or not, but I was definitely game to do it if he was. But I just, decided that I now classify myself as a Christian network marketing coach. And so, you just don't get into our programs and not hear the word. You just don't. And so not everyone wants that. Not everyone's looking for that, and that's okay. And I just do my best to try to show up and and help people. And so that's the extremely long version, if anyone's still awake after listening, of my story.
I'm pretty sure everybody is leaned in.
Okay.
Leaned into every single word.
I've loved watching this journey because a lot of those monumental moments like really stick out as we've seen, how you've kind of morphed into who you are today. And makers, I remember when that came out, and then there was definitely a noticeable shift in the products you were producing for people. I would have guessed a year and a half ago, so 18 or 16
Yeah.
months. That's pretty close on that. $1 million day, man. That's insane. Uh, One of the things that you talked about in there was, how to duplicate and kind of cracking that code for you to really transition your success that others could achieve the same things. And I know that that's a struggle for a lot of people that are very influential social media influencers. What would you say are kind of some of the top keys to being able to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is a big problem. It's a really big problem in network marketing of it's powerful for you to know yourself. It's more
Mhm.
powerful for you to know everybody else.
Mhm.
And so I remember I was at a company event, and this speaker got up there, and he's a great, like I actually really like his style. Like he's a good speaker. And but amongst a lot of leaders and influencers, there's just a lack of awareness of everybody else, right? And so he gets up and he says, I signed the first 60 people I talked to, and this is what I said. And so naturally, everyone in the audience is like, oh, oh,
Right.
right? They're popping ibuprofen, carpal tunnel, right? I mean, they're getting what was his third word, right? They're freaking out because they think that this is some magical incantation or spell or something amazing. No, no, no. If you sign 60 of the first 60 people, you have massive respect and influence from them.
Yeah.
Fact, which most people don't. I mean,
Mhm.
most people don't. This guy's like the mayor of his town, right? So he could have said, "Hey, you guys want to do this thing?" And they would have said, "Okay." Like he could have said anything. And so I just knew, I'm like, oh man, these guys, they're gonna be so disappointed. They're gonna get three no's in a row and think, what the hell's wrong with me? He got
Right.
60 for 60. What's wrong? Because they don't understand that distinction. And so we came up with this, kind of fun I don't know, idiom maybe is the word, but we call there's big hats and little hats, right?
Yep.
So there's big hats that are influential. So if they post a picture of their breakfast burrito, people are like, "Ooh, girl, that looks good." Right? Like, avocado. And the non-influencer, the small hat posts it and be like, "Don't you need a diet?" Right? Like,
Mhm.
it's just like, or nothing happens, right? They don't get any likes or anything. So you need to understand, am I teaching from my privileged position that I'm influential? Okay. And also, am I bashing something from my privileged position? So I'm one of the wacky guys left that still tell people that, hey, it's okay to do cold messaging. It's okay to reach out to strangers. If you do it appropriately, it's fine. And what's, but see, an influencer, they never have to do that. So they tend to bash it and say, don't do that. Well, for some people that don't want to do videos, that don't want to do marketing, that don't want to have a brand, that doesn't have a good warm market. And so this is you thinking about these levels of people. And, for some people, this may be their only option. And
Mhm.
I've had people that were just like, you know what, I don't have a good warm market. They all are suspect of me. They're all, cynical of me. I don't want to do videos and branding and stuff. And, but, I can send some messages. And so we've created a lot of interesting stories. One of our students, Christina Danielle, she is the number one recruiter in her company, beating out every other influencer, beating out every other leader. And she does it 100% cold messaging. She uses
Wow.
our scripts, reaches out to people she does not know. And not only is she the number one recruiter for the last like 5 years, uh,
Wow.
yeah, right. And what's hilarious about it is she's in a pet food company, doesn't have a pet.
Wow.
Like, how does one do this, right? It'd be like the bald guy selling shampoo, right?
Right, right.
But every year, and what's funny is the first year that she, hit and they, brought her up on stage, the company had a policy to not do cold messaging. And
Mm.
so they come up and they're like, how did you do it, Christine? And she's like, well, I just used Ray Higdon's scripts and I reached out to cold message people. And they're like, what do we do with this? They're like, oh, congratulations. And they got rid of that policy. Now, I am not saying that's the only thing, or like, hey, that's the bee's knees. That's my, favorite way. It's not. I actually prefer someone do the work to build attraction marketing and have more people come to them, especially in this day and age. But it certainly is an option. And to poo-poo that option, you're going to knock out
Mm.
10, 20% of your team that would have done that option. And you
Right.
just, so I think just the recognition of influence, charisma, personality, following, and recognizing that not everyone has that incredible position that some do.
Love that. And when
Okay.
you're referring to your scripts and stuff, you're referring to what they're getting out of rank makers, right?
Yeah, we actually give it away if you cover shipping, but we have a social media script book,
Cool.
and I believe it's at higdongroup.com/free. If you
Okay.
cover the shipping, we actually send you it, but it has, not just reach out scripts and how to overcome objections and, and things
I
like
love
that. We do talk about it in rank makers for sure, but this kind of puts them all, together.
it. Nice.
Perfect. Honey baby.
Respect.
All right. Sean's always like, I know Michelle likes to talk. She's going to say something next. Go ahead.
But with one last thing, then
Yep.
with duplication, all right, it's if you only get duplication when you recruit a rock star, your systems are broken.
Mhm.
And that's I see this all the time of people draw false conclusions of, oh my goodness, my I just brought in Sally and Sally is crushing it. Well, Sally was an influencer, and Sally could have crushed literally anything, right? That's not a reflection of your systems. I want to hear about, Bob, the tow truck driver that came in, followed the systems, and never sold anything online, and like he's crushing it. Like that's impressive. That's where I get excited. And so you want to, just take that in consideration. Is what I'm teaching, can someone who doesn't have an MBA, doesn't have influence, isn't that great with personality or charisma, can they duplicate this? And so like, and I really believe that Christianity and network marketing go hand in hand, right? And so they're most people don't know how to bring someone to Christ, but there are verses, right? The Romans Road, or there's other things that literally, if you let the Word of God and the living Word do its operation, I've just flipped, like yeah, I read this, I read this, I read this, I read this, and they're like, okay, yeah, I want to accept Christ. I'm like, that's great, right? That's duplicatable. If I
Right.
tell some magical, amazing story, they may not be able to do that. But if they say, hey, you want to know what the Bible says about going to heaven? Like here's four scripts or four verses. And so you just want to think, can anyone follow what I'm doing? And that starts with when, I refused to let someone join the business, right? We're talking business, not product, right? Because product, you don't have to worry, about duplication there because maybe they just want the product. But as soon as they mention business, I would not allow people to sign up into my business as a rep without having gone through the opportunity video. And when you're influential, I would have people reach out and be like, "Hey, Ray, man, I don't even know what company you're in, but I want to sign up. Give you my credit card." Like they don't even know what product it is and nothing, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Okay, hey, I really appreciate that." And sales 101 has never turned down a sale,
Right.
but I don't care about the bonus. I don't care about the sale. I care that they are following a duplicatable way. And
Yeah.
so I'd say, tell you what, let's just make sure, let's double make sure that this is a fit for you. Let me send you over the opportunity video. And then I said these magic words. By the way, that's the video you too would use if you wanted to grow a business. So it's the fastest fast start ever, right?
Yes.
They're literally reviewing like, oh, instead of, is this a good video? It's like, could I get people to watch it?
Right.
And I'm going to give you I promise, one last example of how stringent I was on duplication. So we were at Blue Martini in Naples, Florida, and we had like a little, team get-togethers, hanging out and stuff. And I go up to the bar and, whatever I get, and I meet this guy and we start talking. And he's a realtor. And I said, "Hey, you know what? I actually work with a lot of realtors. I have this project that I do on the side that that I have a lot of realtors doing. I'd be more than happy to share it with you if you'd like." And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Well, what is it?" I said, "Well, you know what? I'm here with my team, but tell you what, give me your business card. I promise I'll follow up." Now, there's a lot of psychology in that little bit, right?
Mhm.
So, does someone ever tell you, "Hey, I promise I'll send you an invoice"? No, you'd be like, no, thanks, right?
Right.
So I always said, I promise I'll follow up, because who's the recipient of a promise is the beneficiary.
Mm.
So already in his mind, he's like, "Ooh, I hope he follows up." Now, if I say, "Hey, give me your business card and I'll follow up," that sounds like sales. That sounds like, oh,
Right.
he's going to pitch me something. I promise I follow up. So just a little nuance there.
Good.
And
Yeah.
so next day, I reach out to him, have him watch the video. He joins. He comes to the company event a couple months later, and it was an interesting event. It was the event where I earned a BMW 7 Series. They had cut out cardboard of me, like it was very obnoxious, rays everywhere, whatever, right? And he sees me, and he's like, "Dude," he runs over to me. He's like, "You're like the big guy here. You're like the number one guy. Why didn't you tell me that?"
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
"Because you can't say that."
Mm.
I
Yeah.
told him I did this on the side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I flash a check, or here's my rings, right?
Right.
Or, like, "Hey, I do this full time. I quit my job." He can't say that. And so as soon as we start talking about business, I've told doctors, tell people you work in a hospital. They never listen, right? They have to say doctor. They have to, right?
Right.
But see, when you say doctor and
Yep.
you recruit somebody, they're like, "Oh, I'm not a doctor." Like, sure, he can build it because he's a doctor. And so,
Exactly.
like, I'm just hardcore about duplication, and you have to be.
This is gold, you guys. I hope that you are frantically writing notes on this, because we have seen this over and over again. Yeah, Michelle and I are trying to get as much down as possible. And one of the challenges that we hear a lot is when you're building on social media, it can be tricky to really get stickiness, where sometimes when it's personal people, when you've built a community, um, it keeps people engaged, it keeps people in. So how do you enhance retention when you're mainly building on social media to create that stickiness?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but they've done these psychological studies where nowadays more people say that they have more friends online than in their neighborhood.
Mhm.
Mm.
And they're part of some online book club or whatever, right? A lot of people have more friends online than offline. That's not a detriment. I think ever since, COVID, I think it's even more important to have an offline presence. And I think people really miss that connection. Like, we run an annual event, and last year we changed the name to Faith Over Fear. And some people came to that event and it was their first event in person since COVID. And they're like, oh my God, I forgot how much I missed this, right? Just the personal being together and stuff. And so I would say the number one thing is, who runs most trainings? Most trainers are, most, not all, but most trainers are alpha, A type. Let's get to it. They don't like welcome posts, right? We don't need a welcome post, right? We're get to work, right? And so the most important thing is to understand culture. And culture, we talk about this in our leadership book, but culture is the allowing of people to feel good, regardless of their level of desire or level of result. And so if you take that into consideration, and you look at when I audit a Teams group, or I audit a fast start, or audit onboarding processes for leaders, what I usually see is that they operate in a way of, here, go do this. It's like, here's how to recruit, here's how to talk, and then it's just this constant, push. And if you're not and the conclusion is drawn that if I'm not doing these things, I'm worthless, I'm a disappointment. And so it's much more storytelling. It's much more, sharing, okay, what did you, not just your fast success story of how quickly you crushed it, but what did you overcome as a kid? What did you overcome in that pursuit? It's, my favorite way of building belief and hope and inspiration, slow success stories. So one of my favorites, and I didn't even know, I had heard, it's funny, I had heard her story, and later she told me, she goes, yeah, Ray, it was your training. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. So there's a Canadian girl, Amy Murphy. I don't know if you know her, but Amy Murphy, she had been in network marketing for 17 years, had never made more money than she spent.
Wow.
That's pretty discouraging, right? Like
Right. Yeah,
she
17.
pinky swore, which you're not, that's a binding oath there, but she pinky swore to her husband she would never do another network marketing company. She found our social media training. She's $1 million earner in her company right now.
Oh, yes.
And so slow success stories. You share the story of someone who's been at it for years and finally got their first customer. You uplift 90% of your team.
Yeah.
But what is our tendency? Our tendency is, hey, Jimmy just came in. He made 5,000 his first month. What's wrong with you suckers? Right? What'd you do, Jimmy? And they're like, oh, I'm a loser. It demotivates more people. And so having events, right? Having local meetups. And, I run, actually tonight, I run a men's Bible study. So I do offline, stuff too. Every week I do a men's Bible study called Brother Up. And so, but look at, is the communication from upline all push? Is it all go do this? Here's how to do this versus love and connection versus hey, how are you doing today, Dorothy? Right. And so it's tough because who manages the group is usually the alpha hard charging, runner, and they don't want anything to do with that, but they're only 5% of the team.
Right.
The person with intense goals, they want to make $25,000 or more a month. That's 5% of the team. 95% of the team is not there. In fact, 80% of the team, they have a goal to make $0 to $500 a month. They will stay on auto ship forever if they feel welcome. But if you push them too hard, right? And the way you want to think about culture is who does this brilliantly is the gym owner. So if I go to the gym I got my Beats by Dre on, my armbands, my wristbands, and my Air Jordans, right? And I get on the treadmill for 4 minutes. I take a selfie by the dumbbells that I don't even lift, and I go get the 2200 peanut butter banana, chocolate shake, right? And I walk out the door. What does the gym owner say? Way to go, buddy.
Yeah.
Way to kill it. Why? I'm literally gaining 2 pounds every time I go to the gym. Like, doesn't he care? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with him or her, right? No, he likes my
Right.
membership. And he
Right.
knows if I keep going, maybe, just maybe, I watch Rocky Balboa and I get inspired and I start getting diesel and trim. But he likes my membership. He wants me to continue to come. And so him pushing fitness goals on me when I haven't expressed that would actually drive me away. If I'm walking out and he goes, "Hey, I didn't see you do any deadlifts. Lift your shirt, boy." I'm gonna be like,
Right.
"Oh, man, just right."
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I want to get, like I'm gonna feel like a disappointment, and I'm gonna say, "Why am I paying for this?"
Right.
No, I don't want to
What
pay
is
for.
he going to ask me next time? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me hide. Well, there he is. Now I start hiding from him, and
Right.
so like this happens all the time where like I've heard of uplines going to their team and be like, "All right, how many people did you reach out to this week?" And that
Right.
person has never expressed an interest in building a large business. And so they're like, well, three, like they make stuff up, right? And people will not pay for that.
Right.
And so there's in some trainers, they're like, hey, you got to get a check in their hand as fast as possible. That may lose you more people than you gain. And so my philosophy is the longer you keep them around the campfire, the more likely they'll catch a spark. And oh, by the way, 80% of your check comes from these people,
Right.
right? Like majority of your check, I don't care what company you're in, team you're in, whatever, it doesn't matter. 80% of your check comes from people who aren't super fired up, who aren't on the grind every single day. And if you just do a better job of making them feel welcome and allow them, they'll stick around forever. And you may have a leader go this way and that way, but what is their team made up of? A lot of people that aren't super motivated, aren't super fired up. So let's keep them around the campfire. Let's serve them by loving on them, stories, and inspire them, but welcome them. Yay, I'm so glad you're here. Make them feel welcome because no one leaves a relationship where they feel like the other person is really grateful for them. You
Right.
never hear someone say, I had to divorce him because he was just so grateful to me all the time, every day. I'm like, like no one leaves a marriage because they had so much gratitude, right? They
Right.
leave because they
Yes.
didn't feel appreciated. They didn't feel like
Yeah.
they were, they weren't good enough or something.
Yeah.
Right. That is so good.
Hmm.
So good. So for community, for team, for the retention of the business, oh my gosh, thank you. And then how about, or what would you say then as well for customers, right? So people are bringing people on as customers. Some of them they'll know, some of them they won't have a clue who they are.
Yeah.
What do you think as far as retention for that? Because that's very important for building a long, stable business and taking care of them because they're the most important person. Um, Taking it offline? Do you have systems that you use or tools that simplify it, especially for the people that are doing a lot at once or experience sudden growth,
Yeah.
or something to be prepared for, right? If something does suddenly overnight happen for them,
Yeah.
that they don't lose anybody.
Yeah. So I think, or I know that a lot of people think that once someone is a customer or a rep,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they no longer need to sell them. You need to sell them all the time.
Right.
How
Yes.
do you sell them? You sell them by sharing stories. And
Yes.
so, hey, Tina, just, lost an extra 5 pounds. Way to go, girl. You need to, be sharing how people are using, the products, how they're getting benefit. And you want to, and also I think a big problem in our space is people have become chicken to bring up the business to their customers.
Right.
A big mistake.
Right.
I mean, would I suggest you go to them and say, "Hey, you'd be pretty stupid if you didn't promote this thing." Like that's dumb, like let's not do that. But if you don't, I mean, we're in a day and age of inflation. I just read that 32% of Americans are either rationing or not taking their prescription drugs because they can't afford them.
Mm,
And
mm,
and by the way, some of those prescription drugs, I think about 40% are mental health.
mm, mm.
And so people are looking to make extra money. And so, you're not going to shove it down your throat, but you're going to say something like, hey, that product that you get, hey, this, you may or may not even have any interest in this in that any way, shape, or form. But if you ever wanted to, you could make extra money telling people about it. And we show you how to do it. But if that's something that totally you're not interested in, totally cool. Love you.
Yeah.
Very
I love
simple.
Gary.
Because a punch in the face is when you have a loyal customer and you log in one day, you look on Facebook and they're promoting some other company. And you're
Yes.
like, hey, what's up with that? I didn't know you were looking to join, push. We think everyone knows what we know, but you have customers that don't even realize. They don't even know, their heads in the ground. They have no idea that they can even make money promoting it. It's
Right.
your job to at least tell them. And so one of the best, retention tools is to at least mention to them about the business.
Mhm.
If someone does, loves the product, why wouldn't they tell people about it? I mean, if I go to a restaurant I like, I tell people about it, right? And so, they start making a little bit of money, they're definitely more likely to stick. And so that would be one of the biggest things. Um, Two is, if you go with, like a separate customer group and, and things like that, just don't be overbearing. Like some people just want to be customers and that's
Right.
okay. Like I'm the customer of several different, companies, and I don't tune into anything. If I like the
Right.
product, I keep buying it, and so, just know that your goal, and it really is just like in recruiting too, your goal should not be, I must get 100% of people to participate in the group, because that'll never happen.
Right.
Like some people they just don't plug into that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And so, be there for them. I would look at what are reasons for me to reach out to them. If I have a new flavor, or if there's a new product, or we just launch in a new country, or something like that, I look for what are some prompts that would give me justification to reach out to them. I never would reach out to a rep or a customer and be like, hey, how you doing? Because that's just viewed as, when you going to do something,
Mm,
especially with reps, and they're
right.
just like, oh, sorry, it starts with a sorry, right?
Right.
You shouldn't have communication where it starts with a sorry.
Right. Agreed. Agreed.
Love
Thank you. So good.
So a lot of our group is starting to get into like VAs, and just time is a resource that isn't infinite, right? And so
Sure.
they're trying to maximize time with VAs. Where do you see with social media influence, like these are things that are absolutely great for VAs to do, but here's some stuff that truly should be owned and operated and run by you?
Yeah. So one of them would be prospecting, and some influencers generate so many leads, they don't need to prospect. They just, follow up and reply.
Right.
And follow up and reply is one thing, but I see it. I've seen it before, where either someone's using like an AI thing, or a VA, to reach out to people, and it is just impossible for you to relay to a VA your relationship with that person. And
Yes.
and so people don't like it.
Right.
If someone's reaching out, on your behalf to someone you're friends with, and they're like, okay, it's just kind of awkward.
Right.
And so one is, you want to have very clear tasks for a VA. And that's a lot of people make that mistake. They're like, I keep hiring these terrible VAs. I'm like, well, what steps are you giving them to do? And they're
Mm,
like, well, they're trying to get their VA to figure it out. Okay.
right.
If a VA had strategy, they wouldn't be a VA. They would
Mhm.
go run a business. They would go be a marketer, or they wouldn't be a VA. And so
Right.
you can't ask a VA, hey, figure things out. I'll give you an example. When I had a real estate investor association, and we had meetings every month in Morgantown, West Virginia, and Pittsburgh, and Naples, Florida, and Fort Myers, and Port Charlotte, right, in Florida. And so I had found all these different websites that had calendars or places that you could list your event, right?
Right.
And so I did the work and mapped out all these different websites with logins, with how to do it, with screenshots. And then I handed that over. Back then, it was a $3 an hour person in India. They never, spoke to anybody. They just went, and it took, 2 or 3 hours of my time to $9, and totally worth it. And so I would look at what kind of repetitive doesn't require my intelligence or my understanding of someone that can be outsourced. And one gotcha that you want to be careful of is I see in this day and age of short videos, right? Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. You have if you roll the dice enough times, you're going to have something go viral. You just are. And this is like, if you're at the casino and the pit boss says, "Hey, you know what? Roll the dice as many times as you want. We're not going to charge you on any roll, but if you win, we'll pay you." That's
Wow.
short
Yeah.
videos. And so you would probably pull up a chair, right? You'd have
Yeah.
IV fluids in you. You'd get a catheter installed, right? You would literally never,
Sleep.
10 days later, you're sipping a smoothie or something. Like you would never leave, right? And that's what short videos are. They don't cost you anything. They don't penalize you on the ones that suck. But you have the upside that they could go viral. Well, some people, when they have something go viral, they miss the point of what we're doing here. They're like, "Oh, I got like 1,000 comments to reply to." It's like, congrats. It's what you're hoping for, buddy. And so just don't get so addicted to the routine that you miss the point of the routine. The point of the routine is to impact more people, to help more people, to have more conversations, not just to execute the routine. It's to help more people, impact more people. And if you haven't gotten someone on your product, you ain't helping them. If you
Right.
haven't given them a platform to go make, money with, you're not helping them. And so, it's not just, I do see, people get addicted to the routine and then get upset when it's rattled. We're here to connect with people. That's what a routine is for.
Yeah. Awesome.
Love,
Thank
love
you.
it. So when you do have something that kind of takes off, how do you see being able to repurpose and reuse content that's good?
Yeah. Yeah, I would. We've figured this out. We used to be like, I have this reaction video with Brock Purdy, San Francisco 49ers quarterback, and he talks about Jesus all the time. And literally, I mean, anytime we'd upload it, it'd get 700,000 views or more. And we're like, this is sweet. Well, at some point, it started diminishing, and we kind of figured out that they know, the footprint of your file. And so I would recommend, like, more than the thing, like, study, why did it work? Why did this thing work? What did they like about this? And so what I learned is, my audience, at least now, really likes celebrities that talk about Christ, right? So when I upload a Tim Tebow reaction video or something, that usually does very well. Sometimes, a Denzel Washington that talks about God very well. Chris Pratt does well. And so, but like, okay, why does it do well? And so it's best to kind of study and take a look at, okay, why did this do well? How do I do more things like this? And that'll help you uncover. And you do want to just ask yourself, in marketing, right? Not necessarily prospecting, because you can prospect anybody, but in marketing, who am I focused on? Who am I trying to help? How like what is that person? And what you'll find is, usually when you have that identified and you create content around that, it works. When you create something wacky that has nothing to do with it, it usually doesn't work. And it doesn't mean you can't have a viral video happen from some, something funny or goofy, but you just won't get any business from it. And so, you got to look at, is my company compensating me for likes and comments? They're not. You're being compensated for sales, right? For
Right.
sales, period. And so what is that thing that worked? Because some of my most profitable pieces of content didn't get a lot of engagement.
Mhm.
But it led me to some rock stars, or I had, a few people, jump at it, and they grew into huge teams. And
I
so
love
you do want to evaluate that. Don't get tangled up in the engagement stranglehold.
that.
Because if we're just playing for engagement and have no analysis of, okay, did this actually work? Then you can play that engagement game and just have this surface level conversation with everyone and never actually bring them into the team.
Right.
Love it. I love it. I love it. And then, as companies get bigger, they expand product portfolios. Do you see more success with people that really just dial in one or two of the products that they're most passionate about, or keeping it broad where it's encompassing a lot of different areas to hit different niches?
I mean, it's always going to be tougher with broader marketing and broader targets. That's always going to be harder. But I think an important question is, okay, is my brand going to be about who I serve or what I sell?
Okay.
And everything I do is about who I serve.
Yeah.
And and you'll notice there is a incredible trend that if you have built a following that trusts you, you can
Mhm.
sell about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you just, mentioned I use this lipstick. Where's that at, girl? It's wild. People want to buy from people they trust.
Right.
Yep.
And so I just really, especially, influencers, they can probably talk about all 20 products or whatever. Non-influencers, that ain't going to work. And
Right.
so, the broader you are, the less likely you're going to have velocity of growth. And so it would be better for you to dial into, I help, a very specific type of person than, I empower women, like I empower women. Okay, now who else do you compete with? Everyone. And so, or I have full wellness here. Well, full wellness, this is why there was never a GE kitchen. Like, General Electric had a goal of, we want GE kitchens where people have a GE fridge and a GE stove and a GE oven and a GE dishwasher. That was never accomplished because no one buys that type of kitchen. You got a Viking this, you got a Sub-Zero that, you got a Magic Chef this, you got a Whirlpool this. You don't have the same thing because we don't think that one company can accomplish all things, right? Unless you're already in,
Yeah.
everyone on the outside does not think, well, they must have better melatonin, they must have better collagen, they must have better CBD, they must have better whatever. No one
Right.
thinks that there's one ring to rule them all until they're in that thing. And
Mhm.
and so it is smarter for you to be, more dialed in.
Specific.
I love it. Michelle, wow him with your last question here.
Oh, okay.
Wow, him with my last question. Oh
I,
my
What do you
goodness.
what do you got for A?
I'm nervous.
I always got stuff right. I don't have a specific last question, other than, and I'll get to something else, but I really want to know, Ray, you mentioned, obviously rank makers, you mentioned your social media scripts. Obviously they can follow you on Ray Higdon on all the different platforms, but I mean, you've written books, you've done, what's your website? I want to make sure that they can easily go to you and find these
Yeah.
specific things that can help give
Yeah,
them value past this weekend if they really want to continue to immerse
sure.
themselves.
Yeah, I mean, most people struggle with what to say. And I would, you can get higdongroup.com/free, and you get just pay the shipping, you get the social media script book. I mean, the thing that we love is our annual event, and that is end of October, beginning of November in Orlando, Florida. It's called Faith Over Fear. This year we'll have around 3,000 people. And it is all about faith and finances, God and money, Bible and business. I show people how to apply scripture to their business. Uh, and that is just our pride and joy. And so if you want to learn more about that, that's faithoverfearlive.com.
Perfect. Perfect. Do you have any last words? You've got a very influential person in the room. You've got somebody just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to get out there, own their life, own,
Yeah.
who they've been brought here to be as a human, just to step out into their greatness. Your wisdom, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I mean, I have two primary functions, and that is to bring more hope to people and more glory to God.
Mm,
And so, Exodus 33, God tells Moses, he says, you know what? I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm sick of you guys. Just go into the promised land, go into the land of milk and honey. I'll conquer all the armies for you, but I ain't going to go with you.
mm,
Moses says, and they've been stuck in the desert for, 40 years, right? Moses says, if your presence won't go with us, please don't send us away.
mm,
And that's where I'm at, right? If his presence won't go with me, I don't want to go to that thing.
right.
And so we very boldly talk about God. We very boldly honor him. And I'm just so grateful for all he's done in my life. And so that and bring more hope to people. And the only way you bring hope to people is to help them believe that they can do it, is to help them believe that you overcame some things that will give them hope that maybe they can too. If this guy can do it, maybe I can too. And so network marketing is just a great profession for that particular thing.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I
I keep
always say,
flashing back to
go ahead,
the
Sean.
I was just going to say, I keep flashing back to the very beginning when you said, help the person you used to be.
Yes.
That's
I mean, there's so much power in that because we can educate people all day long on different things, but like you said, that storytelling aspect of what you were, where you were at, and then how you transformed to something different is just so powerful because it is a personal experience that you journeyed. And
yeah.
there's so people hurting and praying for something different, something to change, but they don't know how, right?
Yeah. Amen. Absolutely.
Well, we are right over the hour, and I could talk to you forever, Ray, but we want to honor your time, and we know your day is busy.
And
So
please tell Jessica, thank you for
yeah,
sharing
Yes.
with us as well. You two together, I love seeing the interaction with both of you and your kids. You're changing the world, and
Thank you.
it's a powerful thing that not a lot of people are able to do. And just the light that you're shining on everything right now, I haven't ever seen it bigger.
Wow.
With how you're doing it and just your commitment to how you want to do it as well too is just it's so powerful. And I hope you know that impact that you're making. That ripple effect is huge.
Thank you so much. So kind. Thank you. Thank
good.
you. Well,
So
appreciate you
good. Makes me
guys.
cry.
Have fun at the
Again.
event, everyone. Awesome.
Woo!
Yay.
Yes. Okay. Big hug.
Okay.
Go on that day.